I want to talk about hell, because it's quite an interesting concept to me. Horrifying, but an interesting concept, because it really interests me how religion can purport to be so loving and caring and forgiving, and yet still even consider hell a possibility for anyone. So I'm going to talk about this in a bit more detail. Firstly, let me put hell into perspective for you. It is eternal, it is forever, it is truly infinite. To infinity, trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of years is quite literally infinitely shorter than a single fleeting nanosecond. Infinity is quite literally an immeasurable amount of time. It is truly permanent. Now think about the pain. It is the worst possible conceivable pain in every conceivable way. Put them two together and you have hell. It is the most inconceivable amount of pain for the most inconceivable amount of time. And all this from a so-called loving God, from a so-called omnibenevolent God, who has completely abandoned you. Now I say with complete conviction that there is nothing you could possibly do on this earth to deserve hell. By the very definition of hell, to deserve it, you would have to infinitely and irrevocably damage reality in the worst possible way for the rest of time. And there is absolutely nothing that you can do on this earth to do that. As I said, that is by its very definition impossible. There is nothing that anyone on this planet who has ever lived, ever will live, or is living now could ever do to deserve an eternity in hell. It's not possible. Even I, a staunch atheist, am really freaked the fuck out by such a place. It's that bad. And yet, there are people in this world that not only believe that hell could possibly exist, but advocate it. For crimes and sins, which, as I have said, are quite literally infinitely less awful than any sin or crime you could commit that is deserving of hell. And these people really sicken me. If you think hell is morally right, then you are fucking evil. I wish there was a word to express how evil someone could be to advocate hell, but there isn't. I mean, the level of heartlessness is just beyond atrocious. I mean, aside from the fact that you're actually ignorant enough to actually believe in hell, a place that defies all logic, scientific, philosophical and intellectual evidence and reason, and you advocate it, that's just more than wrong, more than morally wrong. And all this from a loving God. A God who knowingly creates people who are destined for hell. Any God who does this is not worth worshipping, and any God who does this is not loving in any way. Now this leads me to a question that I'm guessing theists might use as a rebuttal to my opinions on hell. The question being, what right do I have to question God's master plan? To question God's logic? Because God's perfect, right? So his logic must be perfect. Well, if his logic was perfect, it would be blindingly fucking obvious to me how someone could deserve hell. And as I have said, there is no possible way that I can see anyone deserving hell. If I don't believe that hell is a place advocable to anyone, which I don't, then God's logic certainly can't be fucking perfect. From this you can argue that perfection on this scale is therefore impossible, and so in extension God is as well. Or at least the Islamic, Judeo-Christian God, the Abrahamic God. But that's another argument for another time. If you look at how hell is constructed in different cultures and different religions, you can see that quite often it mirrors the justice systems they have in place. For instance, the chances of being told that you are going to hell because you're gay, or because you have sex outside marriage, or because you're an adulterer, or because you steal, are a lot higher in countries where the punishment for these crimes are really, really severe and incredibly harsh. This also hints at the idea that hell is purely man-made, and it's nothing more than the idea of people who think that the greatest leader deserves heaven and the worst sinner deserves hell. But they couldn't achieve that on earth, so they created places where that could happen, namely heaven and hell. We can also see how this could be used for control. If you're good, you'll go to heaven, if you're bad, you go to hell. And we can see how this could easily become, if you don't do as I say, you'll go to hell. And if you do as I say, you'll go to heaven. And people still fall for this, hook, line and sinker. From this, we also get the irrational belief that if you don't believe in heaven and hell, you have the capacity to kill and steal and generally cause mayhem, simply because you believe there is no punishment waiting for you after death. I feel that my respect for humanity is deeply insulted by such an idea. Firstly, there are consequences, except they're here on Earth instead of after death. So I do not commit crimes or sins like this for that reason. However, it is something much deeper that offends me the most. If they believe that the only thing holding them back from completely losing their shit and running amok is a belief in heaven and hell, then they're pretty fucking awful people. I mean, that really says more about you as a person than about atheists or people who generally just believe that hell is ridiculous. If you're only being held back by threats of punishments and promises of rewards, then you're really not a very nice person to begin with. I'm of the opinion that I don't murder or steal because A, I feel empathy for people, B, I wouldn't like to be treated that way myself, and C, I generally quite like being nice to people. It's nothing to do with heaven and hell, it's to do with empathy and altruism. Heaven and hell are stupendously ridiculous concepts, and at the same time, morally repugnant. If you believe in hell, or heaven for that matter, I kind of feel sorry for you. If you advocate hell, you seriously need to rethink some of your views about life. Because you've got to be a pretty awful person to think that anyone could deserve hell. You seriously need to rethink what you believe. Feel free to comment, feel free to rate it. It'd be great if you could rate it highly, and it'd be awesome if you could favourite it. It'd be even better if you could subscribe to my channel. So thanks a lot. Bye.